Hey guys, today you're going to work on this meanings chart. This meanings chart is all about interpreting words and phrases, how they're used in a text, and trying to figure out the type of meaning behind the words and phrases that are used. So you guys are great at pulling quotes from the text and really kind of assigning meaning to it. This is just a way for us to show that understanding. So as you can see, we have a few columns. We have a column where we're going to write the passage in, the page that it comes from, and then we have this column, denotative, connotative, or figurative. So this is just the type of meaning that a word or a phrase carries. Denotative, it means exactly what it's intended to mean. There's not a whole lot of guessing behind it. So this is good for word studies, maybe coming across words that we don't know. So if we look at that third example, I think we're talking about 2-Bit Matthews here, if I remember. It says, he likes fights, blondes, and for some unfathomable reason, school. So that carries denotative meaning. We're using that word unfathomable to mean difficult to understand. It doesn't carry any other meaning, positive or negative. Ponyboy's just saying he doesn't understand why. Okay. The second example carries some connotative meaning. And you can see that in parentheses, we have positive, neutral, or negative. In this case, this passage has some negative connotation. So it says, it seems funny to me that he should look just exactly like my father and act exactly the opposite from him. So Ponyboy is describing Derry in this passage, and he doesn't think it's funny, like, ha ha, funny, that he looks like his father and acts exactly opposite from him, but he's pointing out that it's strange that he should look like his dad and act exactly opposite from him. It carries some negative connotation because we know that at this point in the story, Ponyboy does not have a great relationship with Derry. And so when he says funny, he really means that he's bummed that Derry's not more like his father. If we look at that first example, I had heard the same tone a million times. Greaser, greaser, greaser. That's an example of figurative language, is a hyperbole. And a hyperbole, if you remember, is an exaggeration. So obviously Ponyboy hasn't heard the term, or heard that tone a million times. He's just using that as an exaggeration for some added meaning. So figurative language, like hyperbole, are those things that you should already know. So this is probably just going to be a quick refresher for you. Figurative language is simile, metaphor, alliteration, allusion, personification, hyperbole, idiom, onomatopoeia, and pun. So simile and metaphors both compare two different things. Similes are those things that use like, as, or than. Okay, so he was flopping around like a dead fish, faster than the speed of light, wet as a mop, etc. So here are some examples from similes in songs. This first one, Brittany is going to compare her life to a circus. So she's not saying that it is a circus, it's just like a circus. And in this one, feeling so fly like a G6, that's an example of a simile. Cuddly as a cactus, charming as an eel, starting to feel like a dungeon dragon. Okay, you can watch all of those on your own time if you wish. A copy of this slideshow is on the website. So simile and metaphor, like I said, are linked because they're comparing two different things. Metaphors for me are a little more impactful. Something isn't like or as something, it becomes something else. It morphs into something else. So the substitute teacher was a real bear. No offense to Ms. Burnett. She's a lovely person. This was made before today. He was a shadow creeping up the stairs. He wasn't like a shadow creeping up the stairs. He was a shadow creeping up the stairs. It has a little bit more meaning, a little bit more weight. So my sister is a walking dictionary. So family metaphor writing, you don't actually have to write this down, but just think about it so you can get in the practice of using a metaphor. So choose one or more family members and compare them to something using a metaphor. So if I were to use somebody in my family, I would use my husband, Craig. And I am going to say, my husband, Craig, is Peter Pan. That just means that he's childlike. Okay, metaphors and songs. I'm just going to play one specifically for my 6th hour because they like country music so much. Life is a highway. Life is a highway. Yeah, finger guns. So, there's an example. Alliteration. Alliteration kind of sounds like alliteration. We've got that double consonant there. Alliteration is the repeating of consonant sounds. So the crumbly, crunchy, creamy cookies, the rabbit ran over red roses, all of those things. So you can think of the first letter of your last name to create a sentence about food using alliteration. Again, do it for your own practice. I'm not going to collect these or anything like that. We're not going to watch a video of a weird teacher rapping about alliteration. You've got enough weird teacher right here. Onomatopoeia. These are fun. Think about comic books from the 1960s, okay? A word that imitates the sound it represents. Boom, bang, crash, swish, swoop, mumble, any of those things. Those words sound like the word or thing that it's representing. Okay? Again, for your viewing and listening pleasure, there is an onomatopoeia rap. We're going to skip through it. Personification. This is one of my favorite figurative languages or literary devices. This is something we see a lot in poetry. This is something we see a lot in really good writing. When an idea, object, or animal is given the characteristics of a person. The rain danced on the roof. Volcanoes spit fire. Rain doesn't dance. Volcanoes don't spit. Those are human, things, but they add some depth and some meaning to our writing. Okay. The puddle of spilled milk crawled across the table. The sun played hide and seek in the clouds. We have a lot of personification actually in The Outsiders. Think back to when, they're talking about sunsets and those kinds of things. Again, personification in songs, that's a good one to take a look at. Now, hyperbole. I am guilty of hyperbole. I use hyperbole all the time. I am the worst at using hyperbole. I think I use it probably 1,000,000 times a day. I don't. You see what I did there? An exaggeration or overstatement used to make a point or emphasize something. I nearly died laughing. The teacher went over it 1,000 times. She was so hungry she could eat a horse, etc. Idioms. I use these a lot too, right? So idioms are phrases or expressions that have meaning other than the literal translation of the words. So when I say, give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, I'm telling you to hold on. I'm not actually telling you to go find a lamb and measure the time it takes for him to shake its tail twice. Okay? These are sayings that are familiar and have meaning, but they don't have literally the meaning of what they say. A fish out of water, you crack me up, etc. Puns. Puns are awesome. Those are your dad jokes. Okay, plays on words. The cow went to the movies. Well, that's a deep subject if we're talking about the ocean, right? Allusions. We have a great allusion at the beginning of our text where we reference a person, a famous person. Maybe you can get some house points if you can think about that and why that's important. But here's another one. On page 71, we're going to talk about the book Gone with the Wind. Don't write it in your chart yet. We'll get to it later. All right. Have a great day with the sub. I will see you guys on Friday.